Okay, so the first resolution that we're going to be talking about is going to be DSA Organizing for Pandemic Justice. And so this is a very large resolution, but it also, I think, is not intractable. So I'll just read off the slide and then I'll give my own thoughts. So pandemic overview. The massive, deadly, disabling, and whitewashed COVID-19 pandemic is still ongoing at a high level. Immunocompromised people are increasingly trapped at home, and workers are exposed to elevated risk on the job that increases with each infection. Inequalities worsen as POC, disabled, and LGBT people are disproportionately impacted. So DSA has a responsibility to protect our comrades and the public from this passive eugenics campaign that benefits the capital class by forcing workers back to their jobs. Our resolution refocuses DSA on continuing to fight the virus, centers the health of our comrades, and emphasizes doing mutual aid and provide PPE, air filters, and education to the public. We reorient DSA to a fighting posture by demanding a true end to the pandemic through public policy changes to sustain and extend health, financial, and housing protections when early in the pandemic, research money for long COVID, a second Operation Warp Speed to find a vaccine that blocks transmission durably, a people's tribunal to adjudicate the deadly decisions made by the US government, and by denouncing attempts to pin the blame for the pandemic on China to further aggressive US geostrategy. We also call for establishing a health and safety committee in each chapter in coordination with the National Disability Working Group to halt transmission of COVID-19 within DSA and report collaboratively developed statistics periodically. Chapters adopting a strong public health pandemic health and safety resolution are eligible for $950 in subsidies for safety equipment. So this resolution is very large. I think it is the largest one in the entire compendium. What it is in addition to all the things that I said, it reorients DSA to fighting the virus, and considering the virus as an airborne threat that is ongoing. It talks about the need for us to do mutual aid and education, the need to block it in our organizing so that our organizing spaces are inclusive. It has a comprehensive public policy platform that will, fight for and defend the gains won during the pandemic that were eroded. It also calls for a truth and reconciliation type commission that will look at the criminal actions of everyone involved at the elite level. It tries to politicize the pandemic in the correct leftward direction, as opposed to the absolutely absurd right-wing ideologies that are just flying around, making people think that it's the freaking vaccine, right? And the other element here is where the resolution places the authority for, or rather centers the work for fighting the pandemic on a national level in the disability working group. So within this working group, so people that are interested in fighting the pandemic within DSA, you'll be able to do local work within your chapter, and also you'll be able to join this group, which will be the epicenter for fighting the pandemic. Speaking in favor. So the resolution shows the scale of the pandemic's continuing but often hidden damage. So this is in the whereas clauses. It has many references. They're not in the compendium, but they are on our website, which is at pandemicjustice.icu. I'll say that again, pandemicjustice.icu. We have the full resolution, chapter safety protocols, and convention safety protocols all on that website. So it's very helpful for this kind of thing. But in our whereas clauses, we have a tremendous amount of information on why the pandemic is still a tremendous threat and why it's ravaging the population and trapping people indoors who are vulnerable. So the resolution shows the scale of the pandemic is continuing, but often hidden damage explains why COVID and long COVID cannot be stopped with today's pharma-only strategies that force workers back into unsafe workplaces. A broad policy agenda is essential for building a movement to restore a collective focus on public health and to expand the benefits gained when the pandemic hits, rather than going backwards. DSA's response must center solidarity with the people hardest hit, including community aid-based efforts where possible. We also offer COVID safety organizing policies because we have a responsibility to try to protect our comrades and the public from this highly contagious, unpredictable virus and the capital's reckless abandonment of prevention. So we have like a few different examples of pushback you might experience when, as a delegate, when you're at the convention trying to whip votes for it. I'm not going to say that this is not comprehensive, and definitely join the delegate chat so that way we can all coordinate and work out responses with each other to the various absurd things people will say. But anyway, so I'll just go through these, and here's just a few samples of how to treat with this pushback. So we are post-pandemic. We are trying to get back to normal. So something that is maybe not well acknowledged is the Director General of the WHO, the World Health Organization, very recently, I think like a month or two ago, said potentially hundreds of millions of people will need long-term care over the next few years because of the pandemic. Because specifically what Dr. Tendros said was that it appears that 1 in 10 infections result in long COVID. And if you look at the primary literature, that's all over the place. There's all kinds of different numbers depending on which set of symptoms you're looking at. But for Dr. Tendros to say that is fairly significant, in my opinion. Hundreds of millions of people is a significant fraction of Earth's population, right? So second item, this resolution is too large. The resolution is specific in terms of its political program, but covers manageable territory and sets the Disability Working Group as the National Organizing Center for Pandemic Issues. So, there are ways to give the resolution a bite size, and even though the resolution is fairly comprehensive, I don't believe that the scope is so large that it's just impossible, right? Like it's something that DSA, we're all socialists here, right? We're trying to do very ambitious politics, I would imagine, right? We're pretty used to doing ambitious things. So just because something's ambitious doesn't mean that it's not something we should try. And I think at very least parts of the resolution are things that are very solidly within our control. Like for instance, instituting pandemic safety within our chapters, right? So that's something we could do. Your fear mongering. Not everyone is worried about the pandemic. So there was a very interesting article recently by, I apologize if I'm saying his name wrong. He's not a socialist, but his name is Arjit Chakravarti. But he gave this very interesting interview where he said, the virus doesn't care how we feel about it. As far as it's concerned, it's game on because it is still evolving. And, there is the possibility that there will be escape variants of high consequence that are happening. And then there's just the pileup of long COVID that's happening. And there's all the people that are still trapped inside. So, the pandemic is very much on, and people not mitigating it in any way, kind of reality distortion field you're giving the game away to the virus, right? And yeah, as I just said, high-risk people are under siege in all public settings. So this is very much not a thing that's happening in the past.